just arrived in Hanoi, and rather than going straight into the old quarter, I'm heading for one of the strangest places in the city. There's a railway line running straight through a residential neighborhood. And when I say straight through, I mean the houses and cafes are incredibly close to the track. Trains still use it, people still live here, and somehow it has become one of Hanoi's most photographed places. And this is the thing that photographs don't really explain. This isn't a railway museum, it's a neighborhood. People live here. The railway is simply part of the geography of their lives. Hawkers offering services, and don't forget the obligatory put your bottle cap on the train track for the train to flatten keepsake. The cafe owner is also keeping an eye on everyone, which, given where we're sitting, is probably more important than selling coffee. She shows the expected train times and which direction they're traveling. For decades, this wasn't particularly famous. In fact, accounts from people who lived here described it as a poor, overlooked part of central Hanoi. Then something changed. Instagram. Around 2017, cafes began appearing beside the tracks, and images of trains squeezing through the narrow street started spreading around the world. Before the train arrives, life just carries on. People walk through, residents go about their business. And that's what makes this place so fascinating. The cafe owner isn't just serving drinks, she's watching the railway. She's watching the customers. And when someone gets too close, she's straight over to move them back. Okay, that is considerably louder and faster than I expected. Considerably bigger than it looks when you see photographs. Now we've got some time before the next train. And this is actually my favorite part. Because once the train has gone, the spectacle disappears almost instantly. So let's have a wander and explore this fascinating street. The railway arrived here around 1902, during the French colonial period. But people didn't suddenly start living here because a railway was built. There were already homes in parts of this area. What happened after independence is much better documented. In 1956, Vietnam's railway authority built dormitories right beside the tracks for railway workers and their families. And that's when a distinctive railway community really began to take shape. One of the people who lived through that history was Boi Thog Loan. In 1967, she moved into one of these tiny houses with her young children. She worked as a railway crossing guard. Her husband was a train driver. Her house was only about 8 square meters. And every day, trains passed right outside. Railway workers and their families became part of the neighborhood, and generations grew up with trains passing their homes. So, after that brief history, I'm back where I started, and the cafe owner is still doing exactly what she did before, ensuring safety as the next train approaches. I could genuinely watch this all day. But there's a bigger question here. What happens to Train Street in the future? Because there are really two stories happening at the same time. One is tourism. The other is housing and safety. The authorities have a legitimate safety problem. This is an active railway in a densely populated area, but moving people who have lived here for decades isn't as simple as putting up a barrier. In 2025, discussions about the future of the area included ideas ranging from tighter regulation to relocating residents while preserving the character of the railway corridor as a tourist attraction. And the local cafe owner I mentioned earlier basically summed up the dilemma. If there is somewhere safe to go and a way to earn a living, relocation becomes possible. Without that, closing the cafes doesn't necessarily solve the whole problem. There is still another train to come, and this time I'm going to try a lower camera angle. Watch how close the train is to people's feet. There's one more thing I wasn't expecting. This train wasn't on the schedule we were given. And that was one carriage. Now, I'm not going to pretend I know exactly why that particular movement happened, and that's important. Seeing a train that isn't on a cafe's timetable doesn't automatically mean something unusual or sinister happened. But it does reveal something important. This railway isn't here for us. We're the visitors. The cafe owners aren't running a theme park. And the train isn't arriving because we bought a ticket to watch it. It's a working railway that happens to run through a neighborhood that the rest of the world discovered.